games for good. I mean, we've got somebody here who's also a professor, who's an integral part of the IGDC team, dean at UID. I'd like to call upon Ms. Manisha Mohan to give a talk. The topic is Purposeful Play, Harnessing the Power of Applied Games. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's really tough to be the last session after a very intensive and wonderful day like this. I'm sure you're all tired and waiting to get back to your homes, some of them here in Ahmedabad, some in Surat and different parts. But I really want to, at the end of the day, welcome you because I'm a part of Karnavati University UID, the Dean of UID, and I'm also a member of IGDC. So from both organizations, I really warmly welcome you. And my role in IGDC is really curating the applied games track, which is the games for learning, games for social impact, and hope to take you through a journey where I'll talk about some of the work I've done and some of the work that I've seen that I've really loved as a really separate segment of gaming. So, yeah. So this area is called Play with a Purpose, Purposeful Play, Useful Play, and a little bit about my background. I'm sure you recognize me in this group. So I am originally from NID, the National Institute of Design. So I did start my journey in design in Ahmedabad itself, and I'm very proud and very happy to be back in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. I really value the people out here and the rich culture, the rich orientation towards design. I spent most of my career in the industry. So I'm not a traditional professor and academic because I've not grown only in academia. I worked in a company called Tata Interactive Systems in Mumbai for most of my career. And I had the privilege of working with some very creative professionals. So you can see some of them over here. The one over there, right at the end, is Dhimant Vyas, who did the animation for Tare Zameen Par. He worked with me for a very long time. And Delvin Remedios, who's now a professor at IIT Hyderabad, but a brilliant animator, and he's the one who's drawn this cartoon. So applied games, and this is really the area where I've spent my life, where it sort of ranges on games for a purpose, starting from games for really small children, educational games in math, English, science, etc., making learning fun and engaging, and also higher ed. As we know, young people love to play games. So why not take the sting out of learning, make learning fun and interesting by playing games? And another big segment, and our business in Tata Interactive, at least a lot of it was in the corporate gaming space. So games for hiring, games for training, games for skill orientation, and I'll try and give you a glimpse of some of those. And lastly, the whole area of social impact. Some of it is linked to major government initiatives, not only in India, but across the world. There are many governments that are looking at education, environment conservation, and so many different themes. All the 17 sustainability goals can be addressed through gaming, and many governments are actively looking at it. So just to show you a brief show reel of animation and gaming that I used to do with my team. There was educational animation, a lot of educational content for children. A lot of scientific animation, games for health. Sometimes doctors needed training, nurses needed training. Safety training was a major domain and still is. It's a very important segment for gamers. Training on manufacturing plants through games. Even forensic specialists need training and orientation. If a murder takes place, how do you find who the murderer was? Energy conservation. So that, in a nutshell, was the different domains that we used to work on. And these are all opportunities for gamers that go beyond those who are interested in maybe these areas of focus, not so much into maybe the entertainment side of gaming, but the social impact or games for good or games for learning. And since I'm a designer, I can't help but draw insights from the work that I did over a lot of years. And this is a quote that I really believe in because, as you see, I'm also an academic, and I do believe in making learning fun through different ways, and especially gaming and animation. So this was the first game I ever created, and this was probably created before some of you were born, because this was done in 1998 with 256 colors, and it fitted into a CD-ROM with a lot of animation. It was done in collaboration with a UK-based client, who also used to make this television series called Yes Minister. So this was JoJo in Numberland, and it was meant to teach numbers, numeracy, to children in the age group of 4 to 6. And the whole concept was that they could not visualize numbers. They were a very abstract concept for them. And this game helped a lot of children in the UK. If you check Amazon.com, it's still available after 25 years. So that's interesting. And but the challenge here was to make a product back then which could be globalized. So while we did it for the UK market, they wanted to also sell it in other markets. So they said, design it in a way that it makes it easy to globalize it. And here we have animal characters. So they don't belong to any nationality. In fact, some of them are really strange characters, like that lady over there. So they don't really necessarily belong to a nationality, and it was very easy to sort of adapt them to a particular country. These are some of the other games that we worked on, which were for building good habits, like conservation of water. This was for a German client. That was for a British client, where it was about brushing teeth and the importance of hygiene, and how to sort of make sure that children understood that if they don't brush their teeth enough, if they eat the wrong food, and then what happens, how should it sort of how should it reflect, and what would happen if they don't take care of their teeth. Anti-bullying, this was another domain which was handled through games, because this was a very sensitive topic, but how to bring the sting out of it and make it, get the point across very clearly. And if you see the characters that we used, they're very diverse. They belong to different nationalities. You have somebody with disabilities also in the screen. So we used to make sure that we had very diverse characters so that there was no one left behind. And tackling different age groups. I heard somewhere that the maximum games are played between the 18 to 30 age group, etc. But in the serious games and the applied game segment, They are children of maybe 4 to 5-year-olds playing, and they're also the elderly. So we have to cater to all age groups in terms of the design. That was an insurance game. This was a game to teach English to children in the UK. And we were, through our work, addressing very diverse global initiatives linked to education. For instance, some of them were teaching English as a second language to learners in China, and some were teaching math. There was a big movement where publishers wanted to make all their books online and digital. So we made a lot of animated games to support the educational content. And we did a lot of work for children with learning disabilities. So they're children with autism, they're children with dyslexia, dyscalculia, etc. And they need to learn differently in the mainstream classroom. So a lot of games were created specially for them. If you see, they're very clean, no great background in anything around them. They were simple, but they sort of could appeal to the children, and they were able to learn better through those. These were projects that were done for the Swedish market, where learners, they understood that learners learned differently. Some liked to read and write, some were visual learners, some were kinesthetic learners. So the same concept of Archimedes' principle was taught through a game which was multimodal and could be accessed by different types of learners. And similarly, so most of the games that we created had different pathways, and they were to sort of be learnt by different people. It was the same game, but visual learners, kinesthetic learners, auditory learners could learn them differently. We created games for people with diabetes, patient education. Virtual laboratories was a big segment. A lot of games for learning, scientific exploration. And I'm going really quickly because I see that it is the end of the day and I don't want to keep you all waiting too long. But the whole digital transformation, the fact that a lot of games became digital and immersive, impacted the applied gaming segment also. And we did create games, for instance. We created environments in Second Life, which were more experiments for scientists to understand the history of a city and to explore things differently in terms of the way things happened in those days. This was about, say, 700, 800 BC, etc., and how people were doing farming, how people were playing games, etc. So there were different scientists who would get onto Second Life and explore and discuss these. These were different areas, different segments in which we created games. Everything from the manufacturing segment, safety training, or the retail segment, training and induction games. The insurance segment, where if you want to sort of recover your money that due to if a part of your property is damaged, then how do you put up an insurance claim? So it is for people to play that and learn and understand. Healthcare and many other areas. Oops, I think it's just skipped. Yeah, a large area for us was the healthcare space, where we were working with doctors and nurses. We worked with nurses in China, with the university in China, to develop learning content and games, which would help in training the nurses on communication and decision-making skills. And this would help to sort of bridge the gap between theory and practice, because nurses know how to actually go and maybe give an injection, and they learn clinical skills, but what sort of decisions to take in a crisis, or how to prioritize. These are areas that need a different level of training. That's where simulation-based games helped. And to show you a brief glimpse of this. So it's a full simulation where the nurse has to take multiple decisions at different stages and in an ICU environment, and cure, not really cure, but at least support a patient with myocardial infarction, which is a heart disease. This is just a recorded video of it, but it was built in Unity and it's completely interactive. So you go through the different stages of identifying the patient and also treating the patient, administering oxygen, and how you communicate with the patient. Everything is assessed by the simulation. So I'll skip this. And safety training, this was in a ship. We actually had to go into a ship, understand the environment, and see what are the points where fire can happen or where danger can happen, and recreate the environment and build a game over there. Again, this is in the retail space. This is a Canadian drug retail store where the employees needed training when they came into this space, and they were needed to be trained on what are the right practices, how to behave with customers, what are the kind of clothes to wear in terms of the uniform, and what to do if, for instance, there are breakages or defects. So it was like a treasure hunt kind of a game within this environment. And all these games won awards. Even in the learning game space, we have awards. We have like Brandon Hall, which is equivalent to the Oscars of learning games. So most of these games had won awards in the US, UK, and Europe. And this is another example. In the learning space, we really target like how do you reduce the error rate in any situation. So the number of mistakes that operators make in a manufacturing plant. Once we understand that, we understand the cost of that, how much it really costs to, those mistakes and defects cost. In some cases, it was millions of dollars. And then we would do a training need analysis and build a game that would make sense, that would train the workers on the process. And just a glimpse into that. Again, this is a recording of the Unity, and it is also compatible with Oculus and immersive. So we try to make it as close to the actual environment as possible. Our teams actually spent time in Canada in this oil and gas plant, studied it. We got the drawings, we recreated it, even had put the sound effects of the plant. And this was not easy because there was, it was always very busy. There were people working over there. They didn't actually give time to our team very easily to study it and to answer their questions. And the third area is games for health and well-being. Now that I've spent a lot of time in the industry and now in academia, this is just a glimpse into my PhD project, which is focused on empathy. So if you go to hospitals, many hospitals in India, nurses are really busy and stressed, and they don't have time to deal with patients. They sometimes are very short-tempered because they have shortage of resources and staff. And that can lead to very negative outcomes on patients. So this virtual reality-based environment and game is focused on building empathy among nurses. And it's being done in collaboration with AIMS, where I've been testing my virtual reality-based games on the nurses, getting feedback. And I think that this is an area to explore because there are softer aspects like empathy or like social interaction or people with physical disabilities where games can help a lot. These are examples of some games that I got to see. Thanks to being a member of IGDC, we got to travel to Netherlands and saw some of the games that were being created there. which were not necessarily for entertainment, but for building engagement among children. For instance, this is pillow. It's got these pillows have sensors in the games, and somehow they hear sounds and they laugh and they interact with each other. And here clearly this game is being used for physiotherapy for a patient or somebody who's hurt and injured. And I'd like to sort of end with this, this game which I really liked. It was a game for dementia, which I got to see for the elderly. So I would say that gaming is not just a domain for the really young, it can be therapeutic for the elderly. And those with dementia really need that social interaction. So let's see what they did.
Tovertafel is a series of interactive games that we developed for people with dementia to stimulate them for more physical activity, more social interaction, and also more mental stimulation. Tovertafel is a box that is mounted to the ceiling, and we use infrared sensors to detect your hand movements. A projector makes light animations on the table so we can play with light. You can play in a group, you can play one-on-one. It can really support the carers in providing high quality and very personal care.
I think the Tovertafel's amazing. I think it's really wonderful that they've got this facility for the elderly. I think it's lovely to see everybody all around the table together, interacting. We've got a different variety of games, which really suits everybody's needs. Everybody can join in. Well, they play with it daily, the Tovertafel's on every day. Obviously, we have activities team.
So maybe I'll keep it short over here. But I wanted to sort of end with this message that since we have this talent, since we have this power to design games, can we also use some of it for the larger good, for solving major problems that the world is facing? Can our game contribute to the world's larger agenda? So I wanted to just sort of leave you with this question, and that's it. Any questions? Great. Yes. Yes, Anand.
So do games for good need to be fun to play? Is that an important criteria? Or do they need to be just engaging?
They need to be fun to play. It's a good question, because when I first made Jojo and Numberland, the teachers told us to say, don't call them games, call them activities, because we don't want to trivialize the experience in the classroom, to be honest. But now the whole paradigm has shifted. Unless it's fun to play, people won't play it. So we have to put in engagement, fun, and definitely that's an important factor. So it's been a change that's happened over time, where education and fun have come together.
Thanks.
Sure. Okay, so should we? Okay. Thank you very much.